Hey guys, Ron here, and to kick off the year 2020, I thought it would make sense to see my perspective on a bunch of Pokemon, and nowadays that means a tier list. I have a bunch of Pokemon categories that I've ranked for you guys, and I'll basically present them with my various reasons and justifications. In upcoming videos, I'll do Pokemon like Evolutions, Legendaries, Gigantamax Pokemon, etc. But there will also be separate videos in which I go in depth and rank every single Pokemon of every generation. But the first video in this series will be dedicated to starters, and they will be split into first, middle, and final stage lists. Each tier list will have different rules and criteria, except for the first one. First stage starters. Okay, this is gonna be the most subjective category in this video. I like every single first stage starter at least, and they're all between B's and S's, so no D's, no C's. But I do love the S's way more than the B's. So let's start with B tier. B tier is, I like this Pokemon a lot. They're 8.4s out of 10s. Cyndaquil is actually my least favorite. The Pokemon on the right is a Pokemon I like less than the Pokemon I like on the left within the same tier. But in general, they're basically the same tier. Cyndaquil, just, I guess, my least favorite first stage starter. Just because I can't connect with it that much. It doesn't show as much emotion as literally any other starter. That's basically the only reason. I love its design though. As a kid I was freaked out by its long nose, and I am freaked out by long noses apparently in animals like anteaters. They make me uncomfortable. But I love Cyndaquil's color scheme. Same thing with Tepig. Tepig there's nothing to dislike about it. It's just for some reason not my favorite. First one is basically Popplio. I actually didn't like it. Let's not say didn't like it. I didn't love it the first time I saw it. But literally a day after, once I saw a lot of art of it, I fell in love with it, its personality in the games and anime. I like it. I like it a lot. Next is B+ tier. B+ is more than I love this Pokemon a lot. It's 8.8. This Pokemon is an amazing Pokemon. Fennekin is the first one on the tier. I love Fennekin a lot. It's just not the kind of starter I pick, honestly. That's really the only criticism. Litten is, I think, cooler than Fennekin. But I like Fennekin's personality way more than Litten. But Litten's fine. Litten's really cool. I just don't think it's a great example of a starter because it's not as friendly as the others. Other than that, great Pokemon, definitely. Sobble is another example of it doesn't have the widest amount of emotions as all the other Pokemon, and I guess that's what the only criteria I have for a starter. It has to be believable in terms of its ability to express every sort of personality. But Sobble is different. I love that it's sad. I mean, I love its personality. I love Sobble for what it is. It's just not the type of personality I'm drawn to. And that's the only negative for starter Pokemon that have one general personality. Oshawott is actually my least favorite in terms of design, I think. I love its personality and I love its concept. Its design makes sense. Its design is great. It's just not the designs that I'm drawn to for some reason. Now it's time for A-. Anything here and above is at least a 9.1 out of 10. That means they're amazing Pokemon. They're Pokemon that are way above average. That includes Froakie. Again, love Froakie, just not my cup of tea in terms of the starter I would pick. I definitely pick it and love it if I had to. Chikorita is, I think, my least favorite grass starter, but I love Chikorita. I love its personality. Its personality is a little too much in the anime. It's a cool design, very cute. A-rank is 9.4. A-rank is, there's nothing better than this Pokemon. These are basically perfect Pokemon, just not my my favorites. These are Pokemon that I love, that I think you can't improve. Honestly, there's nothing that I would want to improve about them. They just so happen not to be my absolute favorites of the starters. Chespin is one of them. I would love if Chespin was my favorite grass type starter. It just isn't, and I don't know what it needs to do to improve that. Same thing with Chimchar. Chimchar is awesome. I love the other starters more. That's literally it. Same thing with Piplup. Piplup is way more cute than cool. I guess I do prefer cool starters than cute, or at least ones that are up for anything in terms of battling, or ones that look like, they'd be fun to hang around with. Piplup isn't one of that, but it's definitely the cutest of the starters so far. Scorbunny, literally perfect starter in my opinion. Perfect starter, just in terms of design, not my favorite. Turtwig is also amazing. Again, just maybe the most relaxed of the grass starters, so not too high up there, but again, A is perfect. Same with Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur I love. Literally, again, perfect. Can't think of a flaw. Totodile too. I think Totodile is here mostly because I love its final evolution out of all the Johto starters. Feraligatr is my favorite Johto starter. Now it's time for A+ tier. These are among my favorite starter Pokemon of all time. S tier is going to be reserved for the absolute favorite. Those are the ones that I'm attached to. Those are the ones that I love more than any Pokemon in general. But Mudkip is Mudkip. That's really, there's so much to love about it. It's a great concept, probably the most unique of the starters, since it's the most ambiguous in terms of the animal that it is, and it's just a great personality. Has a great line. Next 4 Pokemon are kind of tied, including Charmander, but Charmander's great personality, great design, great literally everything. It just isn't green, and that my biases. I'm just gonna bring them up here. Honestly, its color scheme is amazing. Its blue eyes really complement its orange skin. Yeah, I guess I'm just not attached to it. It's literally the only reason it's not an S tier is because I'm not attached to it at all. Snivy, even though its personality is basically one note, I love its design. I love how its design conveys its personality with its nose all snooty-like up there in the air. Like, it doesn't care. So, and its color scheme is great. It's just a cool concept in terms of the line itself. Torchic is literally the cutest Pokemon on this list, and it gets all the points for that. It's actually the Pokemon that looks like the starter the least out of every Pokemon here, because it looks like just a cute little chicken. That's not a criticism, honestly. That's just my opinion on Torchic while looking at it. Torchic is perfect. Squirtle is, I think, it's honestly one of the most underratedly cute Pokemon in existence. I just want to pat its head on. Grookey has slowly become one of my favorite starter Pokemon ever. It's the top choice in the A+ tier. That means to me it's a perfect Pokemon. Not attached to it as much as the Pokemon in S tier, because the Pokemon in S tier are Pokemon that I think are perfect, and I'm attached to. Grookey is exactly what I wanted in a grass monkey, and I didn't even come up with its stick becoming, a drumstick. The concept of its concept is better than any other starter. It actually has a thing that it does and a gimmick, which I like. A gimmick is not a negative in this aspect. And in terms of its personality, it's the best. It can believably convey any personality. I'd believe it if it was sad. I'd believe it if it was happy. I believe it if it wants to play. I'd believe it if it was tired. It's hard to imagine a happy Litten. But that's just my own biases. S tier is a tie between Trico and Rowlet. Yeah, it's a tie. Definitely their final evolutions aren't a tie, but in terms of their first stage, I love them. I love everything about them. Like, I used to think that I disliked Rowlet's lack of green, but I love that brown. That is a soothing brown combination with that green is literally my favorite green on Rowlet. While Trico technically doesn't have my favorite green on it, but it's way more green than Rowlet. But that's a stupid reason for liking a Pokemon. I don't love them because of their color. I love them because of their personality and their concept too. Trico has the best personality in terms of my starter. It's just the coolest. It doesn't have the widest range, because I think Grookey does, but it definitely has my favorite set of personality. And Rowlet is just a really cool concept. Again, just like Grookey, it has something to do. It shoots little arrow leaves out of its wings. It's time for middle stage starters. This one's harder to rank because these are all transitional Pokemon. It's hard to know if I should rank them based on their previous stage and how they've gone through evolution since the previous stage, or where they're going. Maybe both. But also, I may be also very lenient because some of these Pokemon are intentionally awkward, and it makes sense because they're in the middle stage. A lot of them are supposed to represent the teenage years, so I think at the end of the day, I'm gonna rank them based on how much I still like their partnership. How much I would still want to be best friends with this Pokemon. Marshtomp. Don't hate it. Not even close to dislike. It means not bad Pokemon at all. For starters, D tier is fine. It's a good thing. In general, those Pokemon are like in B tier. I guess it's just its eyes are too beady. It's my least favorite of the designs. I guess that's it. I love its color scheme. Its color scheme is super nostalgic and refreshing. It's a great color scheme. But it's the most awkward of the designs. Not awkward in terms of teenage awkwardness. It doesn't even look like a teenager to me. I definitely want it to fully evolve. While other Pokemon here, I wouldn't mind having them perpetually in their current stage. Prinplup is another example of that. Prinplup just doesn't look cool. Prinplup is not as cute as Piplup, and it's far from as cool as Empoleon. It's just there. But it's the middle stage starter I would be the least attached to. Then we got C tier. These are below average middle stage starters, but they're still fine. We got Quilladin. its face is honestly my least favorite part of it. I love that it's round. I love that it's kind of chubby. It's just faces, my least favorite out of, in terms of faces, my least favorite in this list. Grottle is great. I just think its yellow shell kind of looks like a hard hat, like it's in a construction site. I don't love its design as much as Turtwig. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I kind of love Torterra. So, if a Pokemon is the least favorite of the stage, it's in C or D tier. Servine. Its little head spike is kind of weird looking to me. It kind of looks painful. Don't want to touch its head. And I also don't like the personality of a Servine. Superior, it could judge anybody because it's superior. The Servine looks like the most spoiled brat. Time for B tier. These are average middle stage starters. Would love them. I could change a few things about them, but wouldn't complain about them. First is Sisile. I get it. It makes sense. It makes sense for a shy Pokemon to withdraw and become kind of emo, kind of a bit like a sad boy. I just wish the green was a little more yellow. That's the first time I'd say that for any green, but the purple hair streak makes a lot of sense. That, again, wouldn't mind if he was yellow. It would still make sense if it's yellow, but as purple, it makes sense. Croconaw. I love its caveman-ness. I just don't understand why it looks like a caveman. What? I guess because it's more primitive and more rambunctious than the rest of its group. And it's so cool how its little caveman clothes kind of looks like an egg. So that's very smart. It's very cool design-wise. It's just chunky. Monferno is great. I can't think of a flaw. I guess I just don't like it as much as Chimchar and Infernape. I guess it just got a little too much on the face, but again, it makes sense, and I wouldn't generally say that it needs to have less in the face. I guess it just has too much in the face, and for me personally, it's not the best. I love Pignite. I think Pignite is better than Tepig, honestly, and I love its little wrestler outfit. And it also makes sense for it to be chubby. It's a pig! So, I honestly don't get why people dislike Pignite as much as they do. Charmeleon is the most awkward of the middle stage Kanto starters. I definitely like Charmander and Charizard more. It's a perfect transition between Charmander and Charizard, one of the best examples of them. It would be useless to have tiny wings, and it would be even more useless to have one wing. Brionne is great. I actually love the concept. I love Brionne. It's a B+ for me. I wouldn't use it, but I like it. I love its existence. It's very energetic, and I love its presence. It's just more divisive, and I don't think starters should be as divisive as they can. Time for A tier. These are great middle stage starters. I would say that they're above average. These are way above average starter middle stages. Dartrix. I like it a lot. Again, people are like, oh, it looks like a teenager. Kind of the point. Even if it is the point, it doesn't mean that it's good. In my opinion, it is the case here. Its point is good. Combuskin, I loved since I was a kid. I think, even though I never picked a Torchic, I love Combuskin. Combuskin, I think, is a fine transition between the two. Torracat, another great transition between Litten and Incineroar. It has the personality of a teenager, maybe, of a rambunctious jock or something, but it doesn't look awkward at all. It's great that it's still on its feet, and I love its buff arms. Its Fire Belt makes total sense, and it's a great way to transition into the Fire Belt. Duat, I used to hate. I would have put it on in the C tier, but then I fell in love with Japanese culture, and I get it. I used to just hate the color scheme, honestly, but again, great transition in terms of color from Oshawott to Samurott. People have a lot of gripes that Samurott isn't standing, but again, that was never a problem for me, and even if it was a problem, it's not Duat's problem. It would be more of a Samurott's deal. Then we have Wartortle, a perfect example of a middle stage starter. It's, I think, Blastoise's fault for not carrying on a lot of the motifs that Wartortle has, but Wartortle's a great Pokemon. Frogadier, and it looks super aerodynamic. It looks like it's a great frog Pokemon. It's a great design. It's great. Klava is great too. It's definitely my least favorite in terms of personality. I don't know what this thing's personality is. It looks like the most animalistic. It looks like it just has no personality, honestly. But in terms of design, this is a cool Pokemon. I love its color scheme. I love the color scheme of its entire line. But now it's time for A+. Middle stage starters I think are perfect. These are among my favorite. Again, S tier is for the Pokemon that are my favorite and I'm attached to. We got Thwackey. I wouldn't mind a less yellow-green, but it's not a thing that hurts the Pokemon's design in my opinion, because everything else is perfect. The collars transitioning to its later grass collars in its final stage, the 2 sticks instead of 1 that it puts in its hair, oh my god, its personality, how it just rocks out in battle. Design, I love its top-heavy design. I don't know why some people don't like that. I was very satisfied when I saw the leaks. Then we have Ivysaur, a perfect middle stage starter. Literally no flaw. Its colors are beautiful. Definitely the best in terms of transition between personalities. Braixen, I love its personality. I like its design. Not too witchy, while still have witch vibes. Its ear things aren't too long like its final evolution. Honestly, literally can't think of anything that I dislike about it. It's just a fine Pokemon. It's very peppy and fun to be around in terms of watching it in the anime or even in the game. Same thing with Bayleaf. It's a fun Pokemon in the anime. It's a very interesting design. There's no starter that looks like this, that looks like a straight up dinosaur. I mean, yes there are. I guess there are Pokemon that look like straight up dinosaurs, but they're more vague. Well, this one's definitely a dinosaur. Like, it can't be anything but a dinosaur. Bayleaf is one of those few middle stages that you love more than the final evolution, I guess. S tier has 2 Pokemon, one of which I like way more than the other S tier Pokemon. But goddamn do I love the first S tier Pokemon, which is Raboot. I'm a huge fan of Naruto. It's been a recent thing. I started in 2016. This thing looks like the kid version of Kakashi, one of the characters, one of the most important characters and one of the most likable characters in that show. It's very endearing. Yeah, it's so cool that it can put its hand in its pockets. I love that the black makes sense for fire types. I love black on fire types. I love black and yellow on fire types. You know, representing ash or smoke. Random ninja. Nah, it's a tracksuit with a headband. You know, a sweatband. But the final S tier is a Pokemon that actually is probably the most popular middle stage starter. It just so happens to be the middle stage of my favorite starter line, and that is Grovyle. I don't love it as much as its final evolution, and all the Pokemon in this stage have the same personality, which is great. It never feels like I'm changing Pokemon. It feels like it's just the same Pokemon growing up, and that's awesome to me. Time for final evolutions. This one, if you're a fan, you kind of know what's coming up, but if you're not, you'll be surprised, because I do not have the same opinion as everybody else. C tier. Delphox is just okay. I don't hate it as much as people think, but it is definitely my least favorite. I just wish its ear things weren't that big. I love its concept. I love its direction. God, it just looks awkward to me. And I like the fact that it has a wand that is on fire. It's a great Pokemon, just my least favorite. B tier is B tier. It's slightly above average in terms of all Pokemon, but average in terms of starter. And that's only goes to Meganium. It's pretty. It's just relatively boring. Now it's time for B+. And most of them are just cool. That's how I would describe them. For example, B+ is Inteleon. It's cool. I love its concept. I love its design more than the others. I do wish it was less thin. I love its water pistol. I love its cape, honestly. I love its knife-like tail. I love the eye film that it has. It literally just has to make it a little thicker. That's it. Thicker in a different pose. That's it. And it would be an A+ maybe. Like, I have more gripes than Meganium, but I definitely like it more than Meganium. Next is Primarina. I like Primarina a lot. Honestly, I used to like it more than Incineroar. Not too much of a flaw, just not a Pokemon I would necessarily use. Now Chestnut, I've used I've used it 2 times, because I've only played X and Y, 2 times. And I love using it. It's just the most underwhelming of the grass type starters other than Meganium. But it definitely looks too different than its pre-evolutions, and honestly barely looks like a grass type. But that's not a flaw. Again, just the one that I'm least excited by. For example, even Emboar I'm more excited by than Chestnut. I think Emboar's design is perfect. Its Chinese inspirations, its beard made of fire, it's perfect in terms of what they tried to convey. It makes sense that it's fat. I love its actual over-designedness. But final is Incineroar. Would have been B in the past, but I really like its personality now. I understand it fully. I understand what this Pokemon's supposed to be. A heel wrestler makes a total sense, especially for a tiger-like Pokemon. I guess I would have preferred a quadruped tiger, but for what they went with, it was done perfectly. A tier. These are awesome Pokemon. They are awesome starters. There's literally, in my opinion, no reason to judge anybody who thinks these Pokemon are their favorite. First we have Swampert. It's amazing. It's just not the thing that I like. I love everything about it. I wouldn't change anything. Maybe it's the most feral looking of all the starters. It looks like it's the one that would attack you the most. Empoleon is the most regal. Again, in terms of personality, I think it's the one that is the most static. I can't believably see it, be super excited for something, but that's just part of what the concept of this Pokemon, and I love it. A is for awesome, and that's what Inteleon is. It has a weapon on its face. It has a trident. Trident's a weapon, right? Infernape is almost tied with Inteleon. Honestly, I used to think they were equal, but then I used both of them, and I guess Infernape is better to use. They basically feel like they're both part of the same starter trio because of the yellow is basically the same yellow. Infernape is one of the coolest Pokemon in existence. I love when fire types have white on them. It shows purity. When I see this Pokemon, I think of a god. And when that's like the best compliment you can give to anything. Next is Typhlosion. Again, can't see it have so many personalities until I did see it in the anime in The Legends of Thunder. It's a great partner Pokemon. I can totally understand if someone thinks this is the best Pokemon ever. Cinderace is slowly becoming the starter that I think has the most personality. It could be sad. I'd imagine it being a little let down by some match that it had, but I can imagine it being so happy and just celebrating a win. And that's awesome to have as a starter. It's a perfect partner Pokemon. This Pokemon looks like a partner. This Pokemon looks like it wants to train, and that's always a cool thing in a Pokemon. And I think its arms should be a little longer. And I don't get what the yellow things are here. I guess they represent the yellow part of a flame. They're a little clunky to me, but other than that, I love its fire-like hair and even ears. I have no flaw with Serperior. It's exactly what it should be. It looks beautiful. It's probably the most beautiful out of all of the following Pokemon. Again, I don't want to be that kind of person who's like, oh, you should smile more. But Serperior should. Serperior is arrogant. That's part of its personality. So yeah, it should think a little lower of itself, even though it shouldn't, because it's kind of one of the best starters in my opinion. Venusaur is great. It is a bit ugly, but that's just what it is. It's the most believable animal out of here. I can believably imagine this Pokemon just roaming a forest. But that's what's so cool about grass-type starters. They can be intimidating while also being beautiful. It's a gentle giant, and that's my favorite trope. Venusaur is actually kind of tied with Blastoise and Charizard. I guess I like the final evolutions of the Kanto starters equally. That's weird, because other people don't find them equal. Again, I'm not the kind of person that hates a Pokemon just because it's overrated. That's why I did put Charizard in A. I used to dislike it as a kid because it was overrated. It would have been a B. But I'm an adult now, and I can admit that Charizard is an awesome Pokemon. Now it's time for A+. These are epic Pokemon. These aren't Pokemon that are just awesome, that are wow, this is an amazing Pokemon. These are Pokemon that, wow, I can't believe they came up with this Pokemon. I am jazzed. First Pokemon in A+ is Greninja. It used to be, before I liked ninjas, it was B tier. Maybe B+. Now I love ninjas. Greninja's A+ to me. I love its tongue scarf. I'm one of the few that actually really loves its tongue scarf. I don't love that its tongue scarf wasn't a thing in its previous forms, and that also it completely does away with the whole frubbles around its neck. But for what it is, if other Pokemon in its line didn't have the frubbles, I would be perfectly fine with the tongue scarf, because I think the tongue scarf is a wicked idea. Feraligatr is my favorite Johto starter. I've always wanted a Feraligatr before I even had a Johto game, because I didn't play Gold and Silver as a kid, but I knew a Feraligatr, and it wasn't until Heart Gold and Soul Silver where I finally used one. It's epic, and that's why it's in the epic tier. Blaziken, though, wow, yeah, this is a super cool Pokemon. Everybody agrees this is a super cool Pokemon. Even I agree this is a super cool Pokemon, and it isn't my favorite Hoenn final starter. It's just one of the coolest Pokemon in existence. There, I said it. I'm attached to Blaziken, and I've never used a Blaziken. I think Blaziken is the most justified final evolution to love. I truly do. Next in the A+ tier is Rillaboom. It's perfect. It's exactly what I wanted Grookey to finally evolve into. And when you're so satisfied with the final evolution, you gotta put it in A+. I love how it puts the drum on its back, and when its drum is on its back and it's just walking around on its fists, that thing is the coolest thing ever. It's a perfect gorilla Pokemon. Samurai is just a personal favorite of mine. A Samurai Otter? How can you go wrong with that? And they didn't. I love its whiskers. I love its whisker-like beard. I love its shell swords. It just takes them out of its body, which is the thing that actual otters do. They place objects in their furs like clams and shells, and they take them out. And and it's just so cool. A shell helmet, shell swords. Next is Torterra, a world turtle, a turtle with a biome on its back. That is a trope that we've seen many places, and is done perfectly in this game. I understand if Samurot's not literally perfect. Torterra is literally perfect though. I mean, not in stats, it's pretty slow, and that may be why it's not the best. It's definitely a Pokemon I would show anybody who wants to understand why I like Pokemon. It's a gentle giant, exactly what I want in any sort of fictional animal, honestly. S tier is for the best. It goes to Decidueye. It's my second favorite starter Pokemon. It has slowly became in my top 10. I think it's in my top 10 now. I believe so. It has my favorite green out of any Pokemon. Perfectly executed design and concept and inspiration and lore and literally anything that I like in a Pokemon, this Pokemon has. I'm so lucky to have it. I feel bad for people who don't have Pokemon like this in their lives. But it's not SSS tier. They are for Pokemon that are my favorite Pokemon of all time. And that is Sceptile. I'm just gonna say I love how its personality is consistent throughout its whole line. Love its color. It's cool. It's honorable. It's loyal. It's a hero among heroes. It has leaf blades. It has a tree tail. It has nutrients on its back. Pokemon in the S and SSS tier is the reason I play these games. To encounter and fall in love with and bond with designs like these. And that's what starter Pokemon are. They are the Pokemon you are attached to the most. They really do shape the kind of Pokemon fan you are. If you like starters, leave a like in this video, and make sure to subscribe if you haven't. Check out my previous videos and the description for the music I used, the t-shirts I made you guys, my Patreon, or even click join to become a member and receive cool rewards like seeing my videos days early or discounts on my merch and more. Make sure to follow me on Twitter and now Instagram, and I'll see you guys very soon.